Good evening, everybody. I will call this January board meeting to order, and please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Come on in. I didn't realize we were missing one. Get there. Yeah. It's been a couple months. Hopefully we remember how to do this. We will get to, right off the bat, our student update with ASB President Paige Squires.
Thank you so much. And also just thank you so much, school board from Sherwood High School. I want to start the meeting off as obviously you guys do so much for us, and we just are so glad to take this time to be able to recognize you guys for that. But then moving on into academics, Tri 2 has just had a really great start. We're officially done with 4 weeks, starting off with our fifth, which means that everything's just been really ramping up and everybody's back from break and ready to work. Obviously, that takes a little bit of time to adjust from. And with that, we're also just a couple short weeks away from being halfway through the school year, which is crazy to think about personally, especially as like a senior. And then shifting down into arts, we have our Broadway Bits performances coming up on the 22nd. Those feature our choir students who have directed their own small performances, complete with acting and singing. Those will then compete against one another with over 22 groups this year. Mixolydians and Choir also had their concert back in December, which sounded great. They ran really smooth through the whole night, with Mixolydians still working towards their first competition on the 30th, which is hosted here at Sherwood High School. Band also had their concert back in December, which just like the choir concert was a big hit. On January 16th, band will be performing at the Oregon Music Educators Association conference, which is a huge honor to be selected from, performing in front of the state's music educators, and it's just so impressive that they were able to do so. We also have our winter play being cast, the importance of being, or spring play, sorry, the importance of being earnest is officially cast. This can be seen on February 12th through the 14th. Be on the lookout for ticket sales online. Drama 3 has also had their one-act performances getting ready, two of them being originals written by students. These are going to be performed on January 28th and 29th at 7 p.m. in the auditorium. For all shows being hosted by Bowman Theater, go to bowmantheater.com or buy tickets at the door. Love to see you there. Shifting into activities, we had a great blood drive back in December over at Langer's and are officially ramping up our work to gather more donors for the February blood drive taking place on the 3rd. We have a goal of getting 146 units donated, always aiming for more. So please, if you can, come and donate. We'd love to see you there. Bowman pageant participants are also officially fundraising. They're putting in the work to communicate with local businesses and our community to gather donations with a goal of raising $35,000 in total for Dornbeckers across the 11 teams we have participating. Like I mentioned back in November, but I know it's been a couple of months. Bowman pageant is just an opportunity for Sherwood High School students to get involved with our community and gather as much money as they can that can be donated to help kids in hospitals competing against each other in our official pageant in February. We also have our mental health week coming up. This means that year 2 of Superflex is occurring. This time it's just going to be happening within our regular flex schedule, but still providing students with the opportunity to de-stress, which will hopefully allow us to push through this dreary time in Oregon. We also have partnered with Chelsea's Closet for a supply drive starting this week, which has been created with the intentions of donating as much art supplies such as stickers, coloring books, bubbles, and colored pencils and crayons to the Chelsea's Closet organization, which will be used to be donated towards children in hospitals. This is following many of our leadership students volunteering at the Chelsea's Closet warehouse, putting in work, moving boxes, organizing costumes and whatnot, helping make their process so much easier. This is also part of our class points competition, which is really exciting to see being used more formally within our school. Down into athletics, winter sports have all had their seasons beginning and are now into league play. Boys basketball had a great game against Summit following their Salem and Bend tournaments where they respectively took 4th and 3rd, which took place over winter break. They also earned all of us in the student section a free Jumbo, which was very much appreciated. Thank you to Jumbo for partnering with us for many of our games. And then girls basketball also had a great start to their season, competing in Lake Oswego over winter break and winning their division as well as second in San Diego. Wrestling had their first duel against Liberty, with boys taking home a win. Swimming has also begun their meets, taking home a win against Forest Grove. And then dance and cheer are also still competing, with dance team revving up for nationals in early February. And then tonight we are joined by many of our unified athletes, coaches, and partners. So I'd love to invite someone up to talk about the program.
Hi, my name is Lynn Gussel, and this is my third year helping with Unified Basketball in my sixth season. We're currently in the middle of our Unified Basketball season, and the turnout has been incredible. I'm very grateful to be able to represent Unified and to be there to watch the program grow over the past 3 years. I can easily say that this is probably one of the biggest groups we've had helping with Unified, and it's been amazing to see so many different types of students wanting to get involved with the program. We have two different teams, Team A and Team B, which allows us to support students from different skill levels. We're also lucky to have great coaches, Coach Amy, who's joined by Coach Reagan, who coaches Team B, the team that I help with, and Coach Kirby, who coaches Team A, who is new to Unified Basketball, but he also has coached the previous seasons of Unified Soccer and Unified Track. The best part about Unified Basketball is that it's not just about the final score. It's about seeing students who may have not otherwise ever interacted with each other form genuine special relationships. Unified Sports has helped break down many barriers at Sherwood High School, and it's taught me and many others that everybody has something to contribute regardless of their ability. We look forward to the rest of our season and want to thank you for inviting us tonight to help share a little bit about our program and what makes it special.
Can I ask you, not to put you on the spot, but when is your guys' next home game? And
Since we have different teams, we have different dates, but Team A plays Thursday. Is that away or
okay.
We play the boys and the girls team. It is one of the best experiences that you will watch.
Do you know when that is? No, go ahead and look it up. So you guys maybe can't hear her if anybody's listening, but she said that you guys have a home game January 20th, but she's not on a microphone, so you can't hear her. And then they also play the varsity boys and girls teams, and she's looking it up to see February 4th, it looks like.
I'm wondering if this would be something really great to get into the high school newsletter of those dates.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it can be.
Okay.
Yeah.
And it is super fun.
I just want to say this is such a special program. Unified Sports in high school. It's not new, but it's getting more attention because more high schools are able to offer it. I'm actually offering it the first time at the district I work for, and it's really exciting. And I've been really pleasantly surprised by like the positive peer support that comes with the team, and just how genuinely excited everyone is to work with each other and then play the different teams. And I'm excited. Like, I totally want to come. It's so fun. So congrats. Can we get a picture with all of you if we want to come up over here? Or where are we going?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, over by the screen.
We'll let you out. Center? Yes. We don't.
No, you did good. It was really good. Yeah.
Here, Aaron, come scoot in. There we go. Super. Come up.
Look at the camera.
You.
And
You know, you guys are all welcome to stay, but I understand if you don't want to. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, we're gonna move on to. Should I let it clear up? Okay, all right, moving on. We have our superintendent update with Dr. Aaron Down.
Good evening, and it's nice to see everyone, but specifically, board, I just want to say thank you. It's my opportunity on behalf of our team, myself personally, genuine thanks for, this is School Board Appreciation Month, but I get to appreciate you all year. But specifically this month, I want to let you know how much I believe you're making a positive impact on the Sherwood School District for our kids and our staff. It's really important to me, and your volunteering and time, energy, and efforts is so much more beyond attending a meeting or participating in a work session. It is all the energies, the questions you get, the conversations, the genuine care that this group has for the welfare of our students and for their achievement in and outside the classroom is greatly appreciated by myself, by our team, by administrators, and by our staff. And I just want to say thank you for that. So on behalf of our team, there's a little small token just to say thank you, but bigger than that, we really appreciate your energy. And when you think about having some board superintendent shared goals, that's not very common. And I'm appreciative that we want to lean into this work together. And I'm excited about that. So thank you. I just want to open with that. Have a couple things to share from a superintendent report update. One, I just want to let you know that the transition back from winter break went really, really well across the board. And it is a transition back. And our students and staff came back with a shared commitment to getting right back into it. We redeveloped some routines. I'm sure you at home maybe experienced that as well, of getting back into the routine of school and just actually the routine itself. So that's been important. Our students really jumped right back in. And as Paige mentioned, you blink and we're going to be halfway through the school year here very shortly. And so very exciting, but also especially for the parents of seniors, as you know, that this year will feel quicker than any other year in their school career. So good luck on that. And I want to let you know we are excited to announce that the advanced placement, AP as we call it, the Sherwood High School was named to the 24-25 AP Honor Roll. And that recognizes a very select number of schools that have done outstanding work to welcome more students into AP courses and to support them on their path to college success. We know that students that take an AP course are more likely to attend college and graduate on time. But more important, we believe it helps develop some habits and some patterns for them that hopefully it keeps them excited and gets them more excited about things that are of interest to them. So congratulations to SHS and being a part of that honor roll, because there's a lot behind that. And not every school obviously gets that. So we're pretty proud of them for that. When you may or may not know, but you can earn college credit for passing your AP course, and the AP course gives them kind of an early exposure to college level work, and it really is an attempt at a high school level to build college style culture. And so we're really appreciative, and we have a long ways to go as well. We want to keep growing our AP offerings. Had an opportunity last week to attend a legislative dinner. We represented Sherwood, of course, and Abby and Harmony are going to speak more to this, so I won't say it all. But it's my pleasure to be a part of. Marlene, Gary were able to join as well. We have an opportunity with our state senators and state representatives to come together to talk education issues before their short session begins. And like I said, they'll mention a little bit more tonight of what we discussed. But it was really nice to be a part of that and have Sherwood represented and at the table. And I was appreciative of their time that they devoted to going to that. I am currently serving on the OSAA State Championship Committee. And so that committee is in charge of taking the recent classification committees recommendations and the threshold committee threshold for number of participants that make playoffs. So we started that adventure today, and we meet several times this spring, and then we turn over recommendations to their executive board. It is nice to be, I'm the 6A superintendent representative in the room. And it's nice to represent Sherwood and their voice, but also the voice of other 6A schools. And it was nice to have the support. I know our board leadership was very supportive of me being a participant in this because it does take additional meetings. But it's really important, and all superintendents rotate through and support different committees that the OSAA provides. They provide a tremendous amount of activities and athletics that Sherwood takes great advantage in, and has a large number of participants. And so I'm really proud to be a part of that, and I'm proud to represent Sherwood during that time on that committee. And I'll keep you in the loop on things that you want to be kept in the loop on, and maybe some things that you will say thank you, but I don't know why you told me that. I also want to highlight what Paige mentioned is super exciting. Our wind ensemble is invited to the Oregon Music Educators Conference in Eugene on Friday to participate. It's a high honor. And each year, middle schools, high schools, and college institutions will compete for this honor by submitting recordings of past performances, and only a select few are chosen. And we are proud to have Sherwood High School as one of those representatives this year that will perform. Being selected is a significant achievement, and it is one that I wanted to note and pull apart because it reflects the quality of our program and the dedication of our students and adults who make that happen. And so I'm thankful for them. You may have caught this. You may not have an opportunity to go down to University of Oregon on Friday afternoon, but if you would like to have a more local option, Wednesday evening at 7 p.m., they will be performing what they're performing there. So it's a little bit of a preview. It is free, and everyone is welcome to attend. So that's all I have tonight. Chair Carson.
Thank you. Thank you for wooing us with plants. You've spoken my language. My love language is all things plants. Moving on to board updates. Do we all have one tonight? No? Hans?
No.
Oh.
I did. I just wanted to tell everybody in the community Happy New Year, and I hope 2026 is kind to everyone. I like it.
So easy. Anyone else? Abby?
I'll let you go ahead.
Okay. Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
We would say everything first.
Well, I wasn't minding it tonight. No. As Dr. Down said, we had the opportunity to go to a legislative summit at the Northwest Regional ESD last Wednesday with Gary and Marlene, Abby, myself, and Dr. Downs, and talk about all the things that our districts are needing from our state representatives and state senators. And I think the real gist of what we wanted to get across is what are all the things that we can agree on in everyone in this room, not kind of one-off needs that not every district sees. And I think the main point in that was our funding for SPED is overwhelming and overdue. Well, it's overwhelming how badly we need it funded, especially with our neighbors to the north in Washington having fully funded SPED now. I hope that there is some major pressure coming to our legislators in Oregon, and also unfunded mandates that falls on the backs of each district to fund. Those are the things that we all agreed were some major pressure points for us. And then obviously everyone talks about PERS all the time, and PERS is PERS, and not a fun topic either. But it was really great. We did sit our table. We sat with Courtney Neron, who's now a state senator, I believe, and then the new executive director from OSBA. And we had some good back and forth about what we really need from our representatives. And we need them to vote the way we need them to vote at the state level to really help us out. So it was really good. It's a way for us to get out of the community to advocate for our district. Every district was represented at that summit, and it's just getting bigger and better every year. And I think they're really excited about that. And everyone had some good roundtable discussions for what they need. And so it was good. A good time was had by all, and dinner was great. So that is it. I think the only thing coming up is our superintendent evaluation is coming up real quick. I'm going to be sending that out soon, and we will go over that at the February meeting. And with that, that is it. We will move to the consent agenda if everyone agrees. Is there a motion?
I motion that we pass the consent agenda as presented.
Wonderful. Is there a second?
Second?
Wonderful. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries 5-0. We do not have any public comment tonight, so we'll move right along to information and discussion, and we will start with Brady Stretz for community partnership update.
Have a guest featured speaker as well. Check, check. Thanks so much for having me tonight. Hey, this is really a great opportunity for me to come and share with you some success we're having and celebrate a lot of folks who are working hard for our students. So I just want to highlight our partnership with our community for our youth sports and activities. As you all know, for high school sports and co-curriculars, we manage all that in-house, but it takes a real special bond with the community to serve our students in grades K-8. All of them are run through local nonprofits, and we work with them to provide them access to our incredible spaces, our fields, and our facilities. Ryan is going to give you our fall update, but I just want to take a quick moment to thank everybody involved in this. I want to thank y'all for making this a priority and letting us know that this is an important value. I want to thank all of the community volunteers who are presidents, schedulers, coaches, monitors, people who are out there in our community serving our kids, using our fields, using our gyms to create these amazing lifetime memories for them. I want to thank all the folks in the facilities department who work with Ryan so closely to get folks scheduled, monitor their gyms, clean up before and after events, just to give them that incredible experience that we as a community value so much. I also want to take a moment just to pump Ryan up a little bit here before he comes on. He's going to hate this part, but I was really excited to do it. Ryan is our fields and facilities specialist. He's our liaison with all of our community partners, all of our team presidents and league presidents and schedulers. He's their go-between. He has really jumped into this with such passion for service and for students. He's somebody who's obviously been a member of our community for a number of years as a teacher, as a youth coach, as a high school coach, and he's so closely connected to this work and the experiences for students that these leagues and organizations generate. he's gone so far above and beyond what would be expected in this role because he cares so deeply about all of the students involved. And it's been really cool to sit back and see just all of the incredible experiences kids have gotten to have because of the hard work of Ryan and our league partners and our facilities partners. And so Ryan gets to share with you kind of the fall update and how it's gone so well. And I just wanted to give Ryan a shout out for the way he's jumped into this work in this past year. So thanks. Here's Ryan.
Thanks, Brady. Thank you for that introduction. Okay. Good evening. I wanted to, like Brady said, share some highlights of our facility use from the fall. This last fall, we partnered with our community groups to offer programs for over 1,300 students. That's above and beyond what we offer for our high school. So extracurricular activities, which was great. We had a focus as a team on, we really wanted to try to offer great communication to help with the experience for these groups. And we did that. We looked at the way we did some things, and we started doing that with just one of the great things we do is preseason meetings. So we have a face-to-face sit-down meeting to able to hear from these groups, hear about their programs. I love it because I get to meet a lot of great people that are doing great things in our community or reconnect with people I haven't seen for a while. So we get to hear about their program and try to help them make the experience for their program success with our facilities. Also, we try to make this a consistent feedback loop as far as ongoing communication with them throughout the season. Try to have facility staff visible when we can to kind of see what things look like when they're holding their events to help them. And then we follow it up at the end, or we ended up with the feedback. We go out and gave a survey for feedback to gain feedback get feedback on our end on how things really went for them. If there's any specific things that we could help them with to make their season even better next year. We also have done a really good job of maintaining and also trying to improve our facilities when we can. We have some vendors that we partner with, Pacific Sports Turf, who takes care of our fields and also deals with irrigation, and also Crystal Greens, who does all the mowing of all our facilities. So they've been great. We really worked with them to meet concerns that have been brought up by our facility users as they come up, and also to prioritize their irrigation and mowing schedules, work them around also what we've got going on with all the activities we have for games, practices, and the different events like that, so that they can be harmonious. We also looked at changing the way we schedule. Previously, groups were only able to schedule out 30 days at a time, which made it hard for them to plan for their whole season. So we started looking at it at a longer, a larger view as far as allowing them to plan out their season and getting that all taken care of, which I think has been really beneficial to the groups and also for us as a district as far as knowing what we have going on in our facilities and how we can better support these groups. Also, I'm happy that as you guys know, last spring, we revisited our rates for all of our groups, and we were able to keep our rates the same for our local community groups to continue to try to make the use of our great facilities as affordable as possible for our families. And currently, we're in full swing with our winter events, which a lot of events, we had some inside use, but not as much, most of us outside in the fall. So now it's moving all to the inside of our facilities. And I just been really happy with our team because with our facilities being used after school and on the weekends a lot, there is that transition between the school day and after use. So just with more traffic, there's just more work, and our facilities team has just been fantastic and offered great services for our staff at our schools and also for our facility users. Just this last weekend, all our facilities were being used. Our local Sherwood Youth Basketball Organization hosted a tournament with over 80 teams Saturday and Sunday. They partnered with our facilities team. They did a fantastic job scheduling that out, organizing it, and partnering with our high school basketball program to put on just a great tournament for a lot of our kids and a lot of local youth teams. And it was just fantastic to see that. We are now also having our preseason meetings for our spring groups to get ready for spring season. So I know it's only January, but we're already thinking about March and April and even a little bit into the June months as far as getting them ready for their season, which has been exciting to get ready for that. And lastly, I just want to thank you guys. It's been an honor to be able to work on the behalf of the Sherwood School District, to partner, like I said, with some of these amazing people that do a lot of volunteer work, that put on great extracurricular activities for our kids. I've been so excited. I know a lot about some of the activities, but I've learned a lot about a lot of other activities and things that we offer here that make our community so great. So thank you for supporting that. And thank you for your time tonight, inviting me to the board meeting to speak. I appreciate it. Oh, sorry.
I don't have a question. I just wanted to say thank you to both of you. I know you know, because we've had many conversations, but when I first started on this board, I felt like I couldn't go across the street without listening to people talk about facilities and usage and rentals. And it was a very heavy frustration in this community. And we begged for this position for a number of years. So I'm very grateful that the district prioritized it, and even more grateful that you were willing to fill it. And I know you're putting in a lot more hours than you are probably getting compensated for. But people really, really appreciate it. Like you said, I think all these volunteers, you know, they're not getting paid. They have full-time jobs and everyday life stressors. And then on top of that, the frustrations of not being able to practice when they need to, and facilities not looking the way they want them to. And it's just hard to make all that work out. And you are doing an incredible job helping make that all go round. So thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, we appreciate you.
No, and I was just gonna jump in. It's incredible to see how many teams we are able to schedule and how many kids are able to be out playing and trying new sports and shuttling from this sport to that event to somewhere else. And one thing that I am always really appreciative of is, you know, we always have great facilities for kids to show up, and the schedules always work out really well, and everything is so well maintained. And I just to kind of echo what Abby was saying, you know, we're really spoiled in Sherwood for the facilities that we have, but hopefully we don't act spoiled around our facilities, and that people are being appreciative, because it really is a huge lift, but it makes a huge difference for kids in Sherwood. And I hope that you and your team are very appreciated, or feel very appreciated. And even when you have to speak with people who aren't as appreciative, hopefully those are few and far between.
Yeah, I think very much so. Thank you.
Having a strong community, Sherwood has a very strong community. We have wonderful community, wonderful facilities. And that's because we have a lot of great parent volunteers. I think there are 3 things for certain. It's death and taxes and volunteering for youth sports. Like, those are certainties in life, because you have kids, it's true. You're tapped in, and you just, and it's a cycle that we will all repeat. Our children, if they have children, they will do the same thing. It is a cycle that we do, because we know it matters. That's why we do it. That's why we're up at 6 a.m. and going to basketball tournaments all weekend. We're going to cheer. We're doing soccer all year round in the winter. We're doing that for our kids, and it matters. And I'm so happy that you have filled this need for us, because you're doing a phenomenal job. This is a job that honestly in other districts is a full-time positions. It truly is. And you're killing it by doing both your actual jobs of teaching as well. So we are very lucky, and kudos to you and to Brady and to facilities for making it work, and putting on those tournaments is no small feat. So thank you again.
And yeah, don't try to go away so fast there. We got you here for the night, so I don't know what else we have going on in the other facilities, but here we've scheduled you.
No, now that we started talking about youth sport, that's all we're talking about for the rest of the day.
Ryan, I just want to say on behalf of our team, and I know I'm speaking for our exec and our administrators, we thank you for your leadership. Not only have you brought the passion with what you're doing, but you've brought the discernment, which is what we needed. You have the relationships with the community that, to be honest, a lot of us don't have, and we love to lean on you on that. That also puts pressure on you, and we have seen you just flourish with that. And so, the board tasked me with kind of helping fix this last year a little bit, like, hey, can you get this going? And I'm just appreciative of your hard work, because we're hearing from community, we're hearing from people who use our facilities that thank you. This is good. This is better. This is what we need. What I appreciate about you and Brady that I just want to share with the team here is you two have that shared commitment that Chair Carson just mentioned, which is you genuinely believe that if you provide a great facility and a space and an opportunity, that may be the best thing that kid and that family get to do all week. I would love them to love every lesson that they ever get inside the classroom. That may not happen, but they could be excited about their chess tournament coming up. That's going to be in here. They could be excited about the basketball tournament next week. They could be excited about whatever. And to give them that space where they, ideally, they're not even really thinking about it. It's a beautiful space, well facilitated, it's on time, looks great. And I appreciate your hard work behind the scenes to make what they experience awesome. And what I also appreciate is your ability to say, yeah, we need to do better on that one next time, because that, I think, gets us better. And so just on behalf of our team, I just wanted, since you were here giving the update, which I love, that fall update, this would be great for us to get the updates, as we move into the different seasons. I just want to take that opportunity to say thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
No plant for you, sorry.
Okay. You don't have to stay, Ryan. Please, okay. Salvage your night. Next up is Mr. Gary Bennett with our fiscal update.
I always follow the exciting stuff. So we'll just wait for this presentation to pull up. So this is the first fiscal update of the new year, but the second of the school year. This one we typically do one is we typically are in November, January, and then again in March. We'll follow that same pattern. So tonight we have, okay. So these are the three things we'll cover tonight. We'll talk about this school year. We'll talk about next year. We'll talk about a budget development timeline. We'll also just touch on 27-29 biennium too. There's a little bit in here on that topic as well. So we'll start with the 25-26 fiscal year update. So there's a lot of numbers on that, and they're not exactly giant on the screen. The ending fund balance is probably the key number to look at on here if you were going to just look at one number, and we're projecting about $2.538 million. That is unfortunately about where it was when I presented to you in November, and I was honestly hoping I would come back to you in this meeting with a bigger number there. Unfortunately, our payroll has remained stubbornly high. We have had to keep hiring, and we'll talk a little bit more about why that is. We've had to hire some more. We've had some students enroll with some specific needs. And our payroll is honestly not following the typical pattern that it does. There's a little bit of noise in the payroll, and what I mean by that is it generally follows kind of a line where it will go up in one specific month, down a little bit the next month, and it typically follows a pattern like that for a variety of reasons. And between November and December, our payroll typically goes down, and this time it went up. And so that sort of is making the forecast a little bit challenging, but if it stays up, this is kind of where that number will be. And if we get fortunate and it comes back down, maybe we'll come back with a better number. The issue really is that, for one, we have what's bringing this noise. I looked into it because I was surprised by the trend, and I really dug into it as best I could. There's a lot of people coming and going on leave as leaves have become more available for people with paid leave Oregon. We have FEMLA and OFLA leave, and then we just have unpaid, and people coming and going off of that. At any given time, I think right now we have 38 people out on leave in the district of some sort. Some of the leave is intermittent leave. That makes it challenging. And you've also just got some new hiring coming in that makes it a little bit challenging. And even oddly, somebody leaving mid-school year makes it a little bit challenging, because our employees who just work during the school year, they're paid over the course of 12 months in 12 paychecks, but they only work for 9 months. So some of their pay is actually deferred. So when they leave mid-year, we owe them for the month they worked, plus all the back pay that they're that they would normally get in the summertime. And so all of that sort of adds into this, and we'll see how it plays out. I'm making a short story long, but the key here is that this number here, our operating revenues, which is how much we plan to bring in this year, is forecast to be larger than our operating expenditures, which is how much we plan to spend this year. And those are the numbers to be concerned about. We want those numbers to be the opposite. We want our operating revenues to be higher than our operating expenditures. So I'll keep you posted on this. This is nothing to be alarmed by. It's about where we thought last time. I'm hopeful this number will get better, but I'm putting together a kind of a conservative projection just to let people know where we are. It's also worth noting that the projections later in this summary are all sort of predicated on this number too, because it's comparing what we project will happen this year and then putting some multipliers on it for next year. Make sense? Any questions about that? Okay. So the other two sheets I put in here, this is the special revenue fund. This is where generally our grant funds sit. And this is tracking about on pace with where we thought it would be. There's really not a ton to report here. I put them in here mainly for your information. But I think this is in good shape. This one's a little bit hard to project, but it's kind of money in and money out. A lot of money passes through here, and it doesn't have kind of the volatility of the general fund. The next one is the special revenue funds, not the special revenue funds, the debt service funds. And this is where we pay back our bonds, our debt that we owe. We pay them out of this fund. So property taxes come in, bond payment goes out. Our tax collections are looking fairly robust this year, which has left our ending fund balance a little bit higher than I would have projected, which is a good problem to have. And if it remains that way, we'll be able to reduce the amount we levy and lower people's tax levies a little bit and get that number down to, in the $400,000 to $500,000 range. Is a good place for us where we can make our payments on the bonds without borrowing money from another fund. That's kind of what we try to keep, is just enough cash flow in there to make the payments. So this fund's in good shape. Tax collections appear a little bit high, but it's hard to project 150,000 out of 18 or $19 million is a pretty small number. So we'll see how it plays out in the next couple of months. And then the next fund is the Capital Projects Fund. And this is funds where our largely bond funds sit here and some other funds, but it's almost all bond funds, and it's calculating on track too. Everything's in good shape in that fund. We're just sort of slowly spending down some of those bond funds on capital projects that we need to do. Things like playground, we're really building a new playground at Archer Glen, dealing with HVAC stuff, things of that nature, which are in the question of the bond. We're just managing those funds and spending them judiciously, and so not a ton to report there either. It's when we look at next year that I think it's worth spending a little bit of time. And there's a few things driving our financial issues in this district, our financial challenges in this district, that are driving the financial challenges for every district in this state. If you've read the paper at all, you've seen districts all around us with significant reductions coming up, both for the current year, they passed some, and then additional ones coming up next year. And when you talk to business managers and you sit in meetings with people from other districts, it's really the same cost pressures pushing everybody. And so I want to spend a little bit of time talking about that, but in a local Sherwood context. So it's really, the two biggest ones are PERS and special education cuts, and they're really special education costs are rising faster than the money we're bringing in to address them. And it's putting a lot of pressure on the cost side of our equation. Uh-oh, I think we may have, no? Mind forwarding the slide for me. Oh, okay, thank you. So there's two ways. No, I think it's that one actually. Oh, okay. Okay, I thought they got switched. Okay, perfect. I was looking at them today. I almost switched them back, but I'm like, I can't switch the board packet. I must have switched them in my copy somehow. Okay, perfect. No, I think it's okay. So high cost disability fund. So this is one worth spending a little bit of time on. So the high cost disability fund, we talked about this quite a bit in the budget process, and this was something we hoped the legislature would fund. And so when we look at this chart up here, these first three columns are actual amounts that we've spent and actual amounts we've been reimbursed. So in 21-22, we had 20 students. In 22-23, we had 30. In 23-24, we had 44 students who qualified for this fund. And this fund reimburses us for everything over $30,000 we spend on each of these students. So in 21-22, we spent $1.16 million. 600,000 of that, which is just the 30,000 per kid, is not reimbursable. The reimbursable expense is the part above that. And of that $564,000, we received $385,000 in actual reimbursement, or 68 cents on the dollar, which we were thrilled with at the time, because that was an improvement on what we had before. But as you can see, in the following year, our expenditures went up by $700,000 and our reimbursement went up by $1. That's because the grant stayed the same size at $55 million, and everyone in the state is spending more money on special education, so that everybody went up roughly proportionally to what we did, just based on that math. In the next year, we had a pretty good jump up to 44 kids. We spent $2.6 million and got reimbursed 432. Of the reimbursable part that was covered for reimbursement, we had 1.34. We brought in 32 cents on the dollar, or $432,000, but we had 911,000 unreimbursed. So those are the only ones that we have actual numbers processed and approved by the state. And these are our estimates. We've started making estimates out into the future now because this cost is growing so rapidly. We have to really pay super close attention to this, because we won't turn in our report to the state until later this spring for 24-25, because it literally includes every hour that an IA spent with a student, what percentage of the special ed director's time was spent working on stuff for that student, transportation. A lot of students have specialized transportation, and so these are just estimates. But I think these are fairly conservative estimates, because this assumes that will be reimbursed 25 cents on the dollar. I think that's actually probably high, considering it went from 41 to 32. My guess is it goes to 22 or 23, and then down to 16 or 17. But I wanted to be kind of in a conservative range. But you can see, even in a conservative range, when we tally it up, and we knew the number was big, but I didn't know it was quite this big. When we tally it up, we're expecting sort of $1.5 million in unreimbursed costs last year, and a big jump this year to 2.262 million. And so you can see why this trend is so concerning for school districts. The other thing about this one is it's challenging to predict. And so it's hard to know how to plan for it. So this year we set aside 4 positions in anticipation of some new students coming into the district. And those positions were gone by July, and we were hiring new positions. Just the number of students that enrolled with high needs, it was surprising to us. And in some years it's lighter than others, and some years it's heavier. And the other thing we're seeing is the students this year are have some substantial needs and are bringing some high individual costs to it. So I don't know exactly what this looks like, but I do think it's important that everyone understand the pressure this is putting on our budget. The other thing I want to make really clear is that we believe deeply as a school district about supporting all of our kids. The unified sports programs are just an example of that. This is not about not wanting to support the kids. This is about wanting the funding to adequately support the kids in a way that we can do right by them and do right by our budget. And that is the challenge here. I just want to make that clear. This is not one of the greatest things about our education system is that we educate every kid. And so that's not what this is about, but these are nonetheless unfunded mandates from the state.
No, I think that's a really important point, because it is important that these students are served, but it's also really important that we understand the impact of these unreimbursed costs. Like looking at the overall chart, like the total expenditure goes up almost $4 million from 2021 to the current school year, and that for a district our size is a really substantial portion of our budget. And so it is when people look at the financial decisions we make and have questions about, why are we doing this or why are we doing that? There are some things that we just don't, we're not able to control some of these expenditures, and we have to make other decisions around it. And so it's really important context for people to understand. Yeah, this is $4 million of additional expense over a 4-year period.
No question.
Yeah.
Thank you for that point. That's a great point.
Can I add just one quick thing?
Of course.
I think for me, when I look at this, it just is also so shocking and hard to project because we aren't growing as a school district. Like overall, our numbers aren't growing. We're clawing to like keep our numbers in place. We have huge classes leaving and small classes coming in. And we know that because we know of birth rate and we know who's moving in and out of our cities. So we can expect that and predict that. But then to grow that many students who come in with such extreme needs, I mean, that's just not something that you can predict. And like you said, you want to be able to service everybody with every need that they have and have them feel welcome and have them feel good about going to school here. But we also don't have a place to magically get that money. And we already passed this levy and we're doing everything we can to make that money work with the employees that we have now. And so as somebody who doesn't, control the budget, but gets to see into it all the time, it is just so difficult to understand then where do you make those moves and help out all of the students in our district with those kind of numbers coming in. It's hard.
It's a very real challenge. And it is kind of compounded by the next slide. This for some reason is not working. It's interesting that the pointer works, but not the one that says other unreimbursed special education. Other way. Well, the pointer works, so I thought. So, in addition to the high cost disability, there's just the issue of a special education cap we have in Oregon. So, special education students receive an additional ADMW or like an additional student's worth of funding from the state. So, but we only receive that funding for the number of SPED students that equals 11% of our total students enrolled in the district. And so we are running about 12.5% of our students are in special education. And so that leaves a fair number of our students, as you can see on this graph, not reimbursed. So our total number of SPED students is 592. 11% of our total enrollment is 524. That leaves us 68 special education students for which we're not receiving any additional funding for. And the funding per student, according to ODE's last revenue estimate in November, is just $11,662. So that's almost $800,000 right there. And Chair Carson mentioned in her opening that Washington has been at 13% for decades, and they found that was not enough, and they took the cap away. So even 13% in Washington didn't cover their needs, and many districts in our state are in the high teens in this number. And so the impact on us is significant. The impact on them is even larger. And unfortunately, those sometimes track along demographic lines as well. And so that creates even more challenges for those districts. So this is a significant problem. Between these two numbers for us, we're talking over $3 million in unreimbursed special education funds, according to these estimates. And these numbers will obviously morph as actuals come in, but these are, I think, pretty well put together estimates. And so that's a substantial burden to our budget. Any questions about that?
Gary, can you define what a SPED student is, just so people understand how that category is made?
Sure.
Like in terms of IEPs and.
So I am not a certified special education teacher, so I'm just being facetious, but with that is federal special education is a federal law, And there are certain criteria within the law that students have to meet to be considered to qualify for special education. And that's decided by a team of people based on criteria and data that follow a very specific set of rules and guidelines. And students who qualify for special education are placed on an IEP or an individualized education plan. And those are the students we're referring to when we talk about special education students. Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you. I just wanted to clarify because I called you and I guess we've just never talked about the amount of students we have. And so that number was really shocking to me. Even though I'm told it's actually pretty low for a district. So, we've never come across this conversation before. So I was just making sure that I understood it right and what that, category entailed. And so I just wanted everyone to understand that what that was. This news is very frustrating, obviously for all of us because as Abby was talking about, we've worked so hard. This district has worked so hard to get our financial situation in such a good place, and we are in a place that everyone around us is not. I mean, they are tens of millions of dollars in the red, and we have done such a phenomenal job of passing our levy and being so transparent and responsible with those dollars. And then to have this happen from a place of not our own doing, meaning it's unfunded. It's unfunded from the state and it comes from a place, it's just disheartening when you work so hard and to have the wind taken out of your sails that way, to then suddenly be short. So it's unsustainable as a state. I think we can all agree on that because if we're feeling it and it's tight now, I can't imagine what everyone else is feeling. They're going to be tens of millions of dollars into the red next year and cut more than they already did last year. So our hope and why we went last week was to advocate and say this is not going to, this can't keep going like this. So but thank you for clarifying, Gary, and I know it's not awesome news that anyone wanted to hear, and you give it to us in such digestible pieces and graphs that we can understand it, and I really appreciate that.
Thank you.
Gary, I'll just say one thing. This is a great presentation and, shocking, and all these points are excellent. But I think as a community, and I think we can do some things about this. I mean, we have to lean on the legislator. So people send emails over and over from Sherwood and your friends, and it just needs to be changed. And it's very obvious. And there's examples in other states where it works, and it's not working in Oregon. So there are things our community can do, not just the board members and the administrative team. We have a problem here, and it's in this state, and got to push for it.
Thank you for that. And just the last challenge I'll mention is just the nature of the unpredictability of these funds is we sat together as an executive team this summer looking at class sizes. This is one example at elementary school, and we saw some class sizes were higher than we wanted. And we decided to take a chance and put some teachers in those positions to bring our class sizes down to where we wanted them. And we did that, and it's been great. But you try to strike a balance between that and the unknown of what was coming, and that's just a challenging line to walk, to which there is no right answer, and that's not a complaint. It's just an example of the sort of decisions that you have to make, and the unpredictability of something like this makes it very difficult to make those decisions. Does that make sense?
I just want to also comment, like, the strain that this actually puts on our special education families. They're not being funded no matter where they go. And so we do this thing in Oregon where we just kind of trade families back and forth from district to district, because if they can't find what they need in one district, then they will go to another district. And then that's why you see this massive influx of like almost 40 kids. We doubled in high cost disability students through no fault of their own, because they're looking to have their student serviced and educated. And everyone wants to do that for them, and the state is holding them back from being able to accurately do those things. And so when you when you see these influxes, it's because of a number of factors of families, transferring from district to district. So that's a little bit of the background. I just want to make that clear that these families are struggling and trying to find a home for their children too, so.
Yeah, and it puts a lot of strain on our sped staff as well, not only the parents and families, but our staff for sure. So we replaced the batteries. We're hoping for a successful. This button worked earlier.
The light's still on.
I know that there's something strange. Okay, that's the one right there. Okay, so the other topic we need to get into a little bit about is PERS. And in the last year, PERS costs made up about 15.5% of our general fund budget, which is a large proportion, much larger than it was designed to be. And in the past 15 years, you can see the growth in PERS from 10% of salaries to 24% of salaries. That's a substantial change over time. And unfortunately, they are almost certain to increase over the next few years. And the most modeling, it depends on the rates of returns of PERS and things like that, obviously, but most modeling suggests that we're near our peak in PERS rates, and then they'll slightly decline after a few years over a long period of time down to a more reasonable rate. But nonetheless, for the period we're talking about, we're looking at PERS rates likely going up. And I want to talk a little bit about why that is the case. Sorry, Danny. So, why are rates going up? Well, in the short run, they're going up because something called an expiring side account. And side accounts are a very interesting thing. In 2002 and 2005, the board of this district decided to sell what are called PERS bonds. And they sold bonds, which they essentially borrowed money. They took the proceeds from those money and they gave it to PERS. And they said, we want you to invest this money for us, and we're going to make a bet that we are going to earn a higher interest rate through your investment than we paid on the bonds we took out. And it was a great bet. It worked. Saved the district millions of dollars in PERS rates. Lots of districts participated, and everyone who participated, unless you got really unfortunate in the year you did it, made a lot of money on this purchase. Sherwood was no exception. Unfortunately, those side accounts are likely going to expire for us in the 26-27 school year. I'll know more details about that later this month. We'll talk a little bit more about that in a second, about what that looks like. If we go to the next slide, please. I know, I'm still pushing the button out of habit. So for 26-27 in PERS, the good news is that the 1.68% rate reduction, when I say one-time rate reduction, I meant for the whole biennium, remains in place for next year. So that's really good. That saves us a lot of money, and that's very helpful. It is currently not known exactly when our side account will expire. It depends on our actual payroll growth compared to the forecast that PERS made several years ago. So there's a pot of money left in our side account. And in, I think, 21, 22, or 2021, PERS made an estimate of how much they expected average salary growth to be for districts. And then they allocated what was left in that side account to rate relief for districts based on that payroll. And they projected a pretty low number. And we got into that high inflationary period following COVID in the pandemic. And our salaries, like other districts in the state, shot up. And so most districts are in the same boat, where the side account was designed to expire at the end of the 27-28 school year. And because our payroll growth has been faster than that forecast, and we compounded it by passing a levy and adding to our payroll through a levy, not that we did anything wrong, but it exacerbated the problem. I did the calculations based on the best data I could pull together, and I think it will expire sometime in 26-27. Piper Sandler, our financial advisors, will have like some detailed data from PERS, and I'll get together with them later this month and find out more details on what that will look like. The long and the short of it is that account is going to expire at some time. The only question is when. one of the challenges we face is we're still paying on the PERS bonds in 26-27 and a half a payment in 27-28. So we're gonna have not only a higher PERS rate, but we're still gonna owe on these PERS bonds. That makes sense? That's kind of complicated stuff. Okay. So I'll know more about that in the future. The assumption I made for this is that for next year, we'll have a 1% increase in our PERS rates, even though they would remain flat otherwise. For 27-29, there is some good news in that the PERS rate of return, the most recent update we had from PERS was that they were thinking they were going to end with a higher rate of return than their forecast, which is really helpful because anytime you beat the assumed rate of earnings, that means that rates implicitly fall a little bit. So it wasn't like they crushed their year, and last year they didn't quite meet their expectations. But the good news is that the PERS rate should remain essentially flat for the next biennium. That's a helpful thing for us. It could have gone the other way quite easily. On the side that's not so great, that one-time PERS rate relief will expire if the legislature doesn't bring it back or do something to fund that for us. And then the issues with the side accounts expiring that I told you about. And so some very preliminary net projections. These are not numbers that I'm willing to hang my hat on, but I was trying to get some sort of rough order of magnitude of what this might look like. So these are compared to 25-26 costs. I think $1.57 million in year one, because we're still paying half of our PERS bond payment of $800 some odd thousand dollars, $780,000, and something like $8 million in 0.8 million, not 8 million, 0.8 million. That's an important decimal point. And again, the reason that cost goes down in 28-29 is because we won't have to pay on our PERS bond anymore. So, and then that number should sustain itself. And I will know more and be able to give you a more accurate projection down the road, but I wanted to put something in there just to give people the magnitude of what we're talking about, so that we have some challenges in the short run and some challenges in sort of the mid run as well that we're facing.
Can I ask a question?
Of course.
Is there any chatter about extending that rate relief in the next biennium?
There's certainly been chatter by school districts.
Well,
too,
of
legislators,
course,
about
but
extending.
the people that do are the state, the decision makers.
I haven't heard anything about it, but I know that OSBA and COSA are very aware of this, and I know they're working on some stuff. I don't know the details of that though.
I have no doubt that you will keep us.
I will keep you informed.
Informed on that.
You'll probably hear more from PERS about me than you care to in the next 6 months or so, I would think.
Great.
I will keep you informed on this because it does affect how we go about our business. So if we could go back one slide, please. Other direction, please. That's the one I wanted. Yeah. Okay, perfect. So just a quick update on the state school fund. The second year of the biennium, the state is facing a budget deficit for a variety of reasons. Based on the December revenue forecast, there's money, and the state has about $3 billion in rainy day funds. The legislature could certainly tap the Education Stability Fund to offset any reductions in this current school year to the state school fund. Our best guess is that they will do that. We don't know that though. That's just our best guess because it makes sense for a lot of reasons. So the current assumption is the state school fund, just in terms of the numbers I put together, is that the state school fund will stay intact at the $11.36 billion appropriated by the legislature for next year. And I'll keep you posted on how that changes. We'll know that in the short session here in the next couple months. Okay. Could you go to the next slide, please? Okay. Okay. So, I'm sorry. Are you doing this to me on purpose to see if I can hold it together? Okay, I'm gonna try to stay focused here. So these are the assumptions put in place. I already talked about the PERS rate, the state school fund. The COLA is for all of our bargaining groups have the same COLA experience steps. That's when people move up a year, they get an increase in their pay for experience steps. 1.3%, health insurance cost by 1%, and then I'm just begging our enrollment being at the same level as this year. And you might recall we get funded at the higher of either the current year or the year before, so we'll build our budget on this year's numbers, and that'll be a conservative play.
Yay!
Okay, so our general fund, I'm gonna go quickly through these slides just to, general fund revenue prediction, I think our revenue will go up by about 4% next year. The reason that other revenue number is good is because I think we'll have a little bit less money to pull out of the ESD and service credit cash, just because I pulled a little more than maybe I should have this year out, and I'm a little bit thin on the margins. And our interest collections, our interest rate, our earnings on our interest are going down by a little bit, which makes sense with rates coming down generally. So that's why that negative number is there. Everything else should increase by a factor that's pretty typical that you would say. It's important to look at that 3.98% number, because when you look at the next slide, you can see that our expenses are going up at 5.65% or forecast to. And if you look between those two slides in your package, you will see that over time, our cost increases are just outpaced by our revenue increases. That's just a pattern that we're seeing. And that pattern tends to hold. And so when that all comes together, we get to a slide that gives some sense of a financial picture. And I want to bring some context to this. So this slide, let me tell you first what this slide doesn't mean. This slide doesn't mean we're $2 million in the hole. We're still in good shape financially. What this slide does tell us, if we keep doing what we're doing right now and don't make any changes to our revenue or spending patterns, we will end up roughly here at the end of next year if things continue on the course they are now. So we will already engage in conversations with our administrators about reducing spending now. As positions come open, we'll look at all those positions. And again, hopefully this is a conservative look at it based on the kind of the noise in the payroll in December, really no, October, November, and December, it's kind of been bouncing around more than would be typical. And the other thing to note is, while this is not great news that we have a deficit like this to deal with, it's much better news than a lot of the people surrounding us who have a lot of empathy for, and what they're having to go through in their districts, where some districts nearby us, cut $15 million last year and they're looking at another 10 this year. And so we're nowhere near that magnitude, but we do have some challenges we need to address. And that's where we are with that. So again, go ahead.
Gary, do you mind if I make a couple of quick comments just on the prior slide? Two things to keep in mind there. One, thank you, Gary, for a really informative presentation on where we end up. I think the point you made about this is not us finding a deficit and having to solve it right away. This is us being proactive and looking, a half year and a half into the future and identifying potential problems so that we can be proactive and solve them. If people remember, we had a similar conversation at this point last year, took corrective action, and ended up in a much better position than what we try to be conservative and present. This is the worst case of what it might be, so we can plan and act accordingly. And then the second thing, just to frame up some of the conversation that we had previously, for people who are saying like, oh, why are we having this same conversation year after year after year? Like, what kind of decisions are people making? That's why Gary led off the presentation with some of these uncontrollable expenses. It's not that we are making decisions that lead to future deficits a half year and a half in the future. It's that we are grappling with required expenditures from the state that don't come with revenues from the state. And I remember one one way to help that make sense to people, I think was there, I forget who I was talking about it this week, but the percentage of revenue that the state spends on education has actually gone, was it with you? Yeah.
Yeah, so on the slide, what we learned at the dinner, when the state, you know, what they're gonna give to education is $11.36 billion. Sure, it's the highest they've ever funded education, but every year the percentage of their total budget goes down towards education. So 20 years ago, they funded education at 50% of the entire state budget, and now they fund it at 30%. So it's gone down that much. Even though the number looks big, it's a lesser percentage of funding overall for the state.
And that's all important content. So I hope that when people hear us talking about things like high cost disability, like special education, like PERS rates, it's not because we don't think that those things are important. It's that those are things we cannot control. And those are expenses that are unexpectedly jumping every single year. And so Gary did a great job bringing this all together, but just to make it, to reiterate for everybody who's wondering why we continually have that conversation, it's that we are having to react to these additional expenditures without additional revenue and make some hard trade-offs. And it's not because we are choosing to do that or we are making choices and we're choosing to do other things. It's that we have to do this stuff. And then we have to figure out how to make the budget balance as a result.
I just want to also reiterate that the budget is always a live animal and a moving target at all times. We're always talking about the budget, as we should be always talking about the budget. You're never not going to hear us talk about the budget because that's what the community expects us to be doing. That's why we have this projection that's like a year out. Because we've learned a lot of lessons and we've gotten really good at this, and we want to fix these problems, and I have no doubt that we will, because I think we're all very dedicated to that at this point. But we will always have the same conversations at the exact same time of the year, because that's when forecasts come out from Gary at certain points in the year from the budget and the state. And if you don't love budgets, you know, I mean, the school district is a business. It is at the end of the day, and we need to keep our business afloat for our students and our community. So.
Also, I think, Hans, it was an important reminder for community members that they can also reach out to our state and advocate for things, because, I mean, it wasn't funny, but kind of funny that when we were at dinner the other night, Courtney Neron was like, you know, this is the only sector we ask people to bring their own tissue. And I was like, that's actually really sad. Like, this, we expect so much out of our education system, and then we still ask parents to supplement so many things, and people do it to the nth degree. But it is really disappointing, as people who constantly advocate for that, to see us get less and less money. It's really disappointing to ask more and more of the people that work in our buildings every single day. And then as parents who really aren't in that space, we're always asking for more. You know, we want more rigorous programs. We want to see more special things being offered to all of our kids, but really pretty unaware that, like, these educators are stretched so thin. So it's just it's a crummy cycle, and I do have all the faith in the world that we will solve it. We totally will solve it, and we are in a much better place than every other district around us, and that's wonderful. But it would be great if other people as well reached out and really put pressure on the state to perform differently. That's it. Off my soapbox.
Okay, if we could just go to the final slide, please. We're gonna skip about 10, I'm kidding. So just to put some dates on there, just a budget development timeline. Today, obviously, is the 12th. We're doing our second fiscal update of the year. We'll do another fiscal update with the whole budget committee and our budget committee orientation on March 9th. And April 13th is when we have tentatively scheduled our first budget committee meeting with budget adoption on May 12th. And so we've got, 4 months to figure out 3 months to figure out what to do with this before we make a budget for next year. And so we'll get to work on that. We're already working on it. And we'll see how it plays out from here. As we get more and more information, I'll continue to refine those numbers and keep you informed of where we are, and we'll put our heads together and address it the best we can. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Gary. We really appreciate you and your presentation. It's very easy to read and
Nice big font.
understand. Really difficult to get through, however. Okay,
It's done to me on purpose, see if I could handle it.
moving on to Ms. Marlene Carroll for Student Achievement Report. Do I dare try?
It's gonna work on yours.
Mm-hmm. But I don't have to. I can try the other one. That one doesn't work. You can try. Okay. Are you going or are you driving? Okay, then I'll just
Thank you for driving.
let me know and then I can just say slide. All right. So tonight, in Oregon, in November, we all get our student achievement data. And so tonight I'm going to share a little bit about where we are as a district in terms of student achievement and accountability measures. So keep on this slide, Danny. So we'll go through a couple of things, including how we internally use our state assessment data. And then we're going to go through and take a little bit deeper look at the accountability metrics with the new SB, the Senate bill that I spoke with you earlier in the fall about. And those new accountability measures, as well as some of the ones that we've been using for some time. And then we'll look at the key strategies that we're implementing, which you heard a little bit about during the work session today, and some of our strategic plan and board superintendent goals are crafted around. And then we'll talk a little bit about next steps of what we're doing in this work. All right. Okay, so here in Sherwood, we look at our state assessment data in a variety of ways. So we do look at student growth over time between students. We can see that. And so we can see that year-to-year growth over time. We can compare grade levels. We can compare third grade this year to fourth grade the following year, and things like that. And our staff look at that. We also compare our district with state trends, and I'll talk a little bit about that. And then we look for trends that we see within the district. We hope to see those over a couple years at a time. And we're starting to see some trends now, because we couldn't really look at the trends from the pandemic, but now that we've been out of it for a while, we'll see some of those trends. And then we use state assessment data here for some very specific things, which you know about. One of those is our strategic plan and those accountability measures within that plan. And then our data is also used for our integrated programs reports and the accountability requirements that's set from the state. So, and we report on that data to the Oregon Department of Education and to you in the spring. All right, next slide. Okay, this is kind of a snapshot of where we are sitting with attendance in the district. And so just a couple of things to note. One is that we have seen a bit of increase in attendance from previous year. So we're up by 1% there. You'll notice that the Oregon average attendance, so when we compare our district to the rest of the state, sits around 67%. And then you can kind of see, I included that our 22-23 data, we were sitting at 73.2%. And then last year, 77%, or the previous year, 77%. And then last year, by the end of the year, we were at 78%. One of the things to note in this slide is the graph. And so there's two ways to really look at this data here. And one is if you look at the kindergarten, you could do a comparison. So kindergarten in 23, 24, and then compare it to kindergarten in 20 or 24, 25 last year. And you'll see that our kindergartners and other grade levels are generally attending more regularly than the previous year. We've done a large public information campaign, our principals and attendance teams at our elementary schools around this. It's been a big focus of ours over the last couple of years, as you know, and we think that a lot of that has to do with this jump in attendance. The other way to look at this graph is to compare the students over time. So your kindergartners from 23, 24 are also, or from 24, 25 can then be compared to the first graders of the following year. So let's take a look at grade 1, for example. Those students are at 80.7, and then when they go into second grade, they're reaching 85.5%. So we are seeing a good jump in those early years from year to year, which is exciting and important to know. And so those are kind of the trends that we're looking for and we're monitoring, and then we're making different adjustments around how we talk to parents about attendance and things like that to increase attendance. All right, we're gonna take, yes, okay. This is one of our new accountability measures around attendance. And so we'll be reviewing K2 regular attenders. And we are going to be looking at just that kindergarten, first and second grade, and we'll kind of be talking a lot with our families about that. So something important to know, just the reason why the state has chosen to focus on early attendance in these younger grades is it does correlate to poor attendance later on. So the better attendance that you have in those foundational years likely carries on into those future grades. And so that's important to note. We really want to start kids off as strong as possible. And our elementary administrators and educators will be focused on that. And how do we connect with families about the importance of attendance? The other thing is if students attend more regularly, there is research that shows that you can actually increase academic achievement. And so students maybe who have had poor attendance previously and then have better attendance, we see that we can make substantial growth because we can activate our NTSS system and get them the intervention they need. And that continuous instruction really does improve achievement. And so we want them here because every minute really is precious at this age and they're sponges, and we want them to be able to absorb as much as possible. And you know, it is true that poor attendance early on does create some significant gaps because those foundational skills are so important. We talked a little bit about that earlier. And so because curriculum moves so quickly, you really do miss a lot of instruction. Even if you're only missing that one day a week, perhaps that still puts you below 90% of your instructional time throughout the year. And so really important. We're doing really well, but we would like to see these numbers in the 90% or above, ideally. So we still have room to grow. So this is not new, but it is one of our areas that we focus on, and that's literacy or language arts in third grade. And right here, you're seeing a graph of our percent of students scoring 3 or higher. So they meet this on the state assessment or above. And it's over time. And so you can kind of see our trend. We're increasing over time, and that's really exciting work. We've done a lot of focus on that. In compared to the rest of the state, Oregon sits on average around 41%. And so we're doing well, but again, we have room to grow. This is our data from grades 3 through 8, and we're not seeing quite the same increase, but we do see a slight increase in trend. Some of our areas of focus, we've seen so much growth at the early grades when we implement that high dosage tutoring and those foundational skills that we're really looking at what does intervention look like for grades 4, 5 and intermediate elementary, and 6th, 7th, 8th at the middle school. And so we haven't always had a very systematic way to determine who needs that intervention and who doesn't. But with our MAP assessment, we can now utilize that, and that assessment happening at the beginning of the year and then monitoring at the middle of the year. We're really hoping that we can start plugging those students into the interventions that they need and really target the skills that they need in those upper grades. And we'll start to see a greater trend between all students in grades 3 through 8, not just our third graders after getting those foundational skills. So this is also a new metric that we'll be using. We included this as a part of our strategic plan work, but this will be one of the accountability measures that we will work with the state on. And so we really want to see an increase in mathematics and proficiency in mathematics over time, specifically targeting that 8th grade level. And the reason why is there is a good amount of research that shows that students, that 8th grade is really like the year that students need to be caught up in order to be able to have enough skills that they can choose whatever pathway they want in high school. And so we sometimes call it like a gatekeeping year, because it's really important that students leave 8th grade with proficiency in math so that they can, if they want, go to high school, go down the algebra and calculus path or statistics, but they have all those skills to kind of make choices along the way and don't need remediation in high school. Most recently, we've kind of maintained over the past couple of years. And then we saw a nice healthy increase in our 24-25 school year. We've done a lot of work as a math department in the middle school and elementary. It all adds up, but a lot of work around new curriculum, getting clarity over what's important in learning, doing weekly assessment checks. All of that has really impacted our students' proficiency, and we're starting to see it in the scores, and we're really hoping that we can continue with this momentum, because that's quite a big gain. Just so you know, the Oregon average is sitting around 29% proficiency in math. And so we're proud of our scores, but we also are, we still have room to grow. And this is grades 3 through 8, scoring 3 or higher in math. And we are seeing a positive trend there as well. One of the things that we shared with you during our work session today, and we're going to focus on that for grades 3 through 8, is exploring high quality intervention materials. We have those for our literacy program, and we have intervention materials for our math program, but we need more, and we need ones that are rooted in the specificity of gap or learning need that the student needs, and then we need time created in our schedule for that. And so again, We haven't had a system to really do this at the middle level, but with the universal screener for the MAP test, we do see the ability to progress monitor students differently and to make sure that any student that we miss through our regular unit assessments, they'll be picked up through that MAP assessment and be supported through an intervention course. So we're excited about that. And it's a lot of work at our elementary and middle schools, and they're doing a great job.
Really,
Yes.
really quick on, so with, because I know there were questions about this. So with the new MAPS assessment
Yeah.
that now takes place, are we able to track? Because one of the things that's different about the reading scores by grade versus the math scores is that, if I'm remembering right, the reading scores generally go up, but the math scores start to go down into later elementary school and into middle school. And are we able to get more information around where students who were proficient at one point start becoming not proficient in math?
Right. So how math and so on the state assessment, generally the trend for math and literacy are opposite. They flip. So literacy, it's this how the standards are set up and how you learn language arts is you're building on skills. And they generally stay the same. So you start at third grade comprehension skills, and although they get more complex, the skill itself is still comprehension. And so you see kids get better and better and better. And by the time they're in 11th grade, you could potentially be in a place where you have majority of your students meeting or exceeding on that state assessment. And it's kind of the opposite with math. And so we generally see third grade our strongest grade in math. And then as things get more complex and they're newer each time, those skills are new. Yes, they build on each other, but if you have a gap, it's really hard to learn the next level. We start to see kids decline. And so the goal is that you really get kids proficient in math by 8th grade, because then things start to get more complex. You start to see it going a variety of different ways. They get assessed on those, and there's some significant gaps. And so we do, because the standards are different, we see kind of an inverse relationship between the two. We still don't want to see, we want to see scores in the 70, 80 range across the state of Oregon. And we want to see that, generally maintain. We don't want to see it fluctuate to the extent that it is across the state.
Yeah, no, and generally we have really good, like you said, that 29% is horrific, and we are exceeding the state goals. But I do think, we talk a lot about reading, but,
Yes.
and, I can always hear the complaints about like, oh, 8th grade math, when are you ever going to use algebra in real life? But in a world where more and more of what we do gets done on a computer or is subject to an algorithm, like you can't understand what a computer does or what an algorithm does if you don't have some basic algebra to be able to apply to that, to try to solve that problem. And so, just hopefully we are getting new tools to be able to assess where students are and keep them on track, because math is becoming more important, not less.
Absolutely.
Can I just add, and I'm not an educator, but I think for both my boys when they went through middle school, math, they both fell off a little bit. And I, as a parent, feel like a lot of times it's because there's no required homework. And I know it's not a popular belief to like give homework just to give homework, but most of the time at middle school, practice is not a requirement. And if you're like my kids, if it's not a requirement, you're probably not participating in it. And so I think that when my kids, I've seen them struggle, I've said like, now you are going to be doing that work at home because I want to see that you're tracking. which is a struggle when it's not a requirement. But that's when I really see that they don't know the skill, because in class, you know, your teacher is likely walking you through a math problem and you're writing it down, but you're not maybe being forced to figure it all out on your own. And then when you get home and you're forced to work through that problem, you're like, wait a minute, I totally missed this step and I actually don't know how to move forward doing this type of problem. And then as a parent, we're not always really well equipped to help them figure out where they've gone wrong and how they should be learning it. But even in those moments, I felt like that unit just passed by, right? Like they got to a unit test, they did good enough, middle school grades, you still move on. And so I always thought, like, I just wish you were forced, honestly, to have a little bit more independent practice, because I think a kid learns where their gaps are when they're forced to have to work through it on their own. And reading is just not quite like that. You know, you can miss a few words or miss some context and still get the general understanding. So that's I lobby for a little more homework in math. I think it would honestly help kids figure out where the holes are.
Yeah, absolutely. Independent practice absolutely supports students' learning and growth. And so I think that's an important component that you brought up. And the reality is our class periods, they're too short to do the instruction and the independent practice. And so doing it at home is a valuable way to increase that independent practice for kids, especially kids who really need it. And most of our students need to do some independent practice at home. We have things like homework club that we offer. That is one way that we do some independent practice, but not everybody, kids are busy and they have athletics and band and, a variety of different activities after school. And so we're looking at ways to how do we increase some independent practice around students and their math and their literacy as well. But the students that I see at Homework Club at the middle level are doing math. Yeah.
I'll keep it short, but I just want to say this problem with math, obviously, for anybody watching, this is a problem, but we've been trying to figure out forever. I mean, year 2000, I took my first ninth grade teaching job, teaching algebra, like mathematics. And it's like, yeah, we were talking about exactly the same thing, whatever that was, 26 years ago. This is a hard thing to crack. And I remember, like, as you were talking about, I think you articulated it very well, Marlene, is this idea in reading, like the basic kinds of skills that you need to learn, you've learned them by third grade. They grow on each other, but this idea of how to dissect a word and reading comprehension, et cetera, those base skills just get more complex, but they're the same base skills. And that is not true for mathematics. And I think you articulate that very, very well. And so, like, I remember struggling trying to teach, the ninth grade algebra, which was required. You had to take it because that's the only way you can get a credit in high school. It's got to be algebra. But the kids, were struggling with things like, how to add and subtract fractions or negative numbers and all these things that were not even the things I was supposed to be teaching, but we had to. So the one thing I want to say is I really appreciate tonight in the work session talking about the intentionality of how to do math intervention, because it is, for the last, like I said, ever since I was an educator 26 years ago, it always was a focus on literacy, like early literature reading, etc. And it very rarely was math ever the priority. And I still don't think it is. The state still doesn't do that, right? It's always like science of reading. Let's get everybody reading. Now, get it. Reading is super important. We want everybody to know how to read. But maybe getting more than 25% of our kids in Oregon to pass, standard in eighth grade math might be a goal. I would like to see that happening, but I really appreciate that Sherwood is making this intentional. Like what I heard tonight was the intentionality of like, hey, let's take the same kinds of things that we're doing in reading, the intentionality part of it. Obviously, teaching math is very different than teaching reading, but the intentionality part of it, like, how do we do this? How do we intentionally put in some places, some practices? And I realize the state doesn't fund that. I know that there's no big grants about early mathematics or eighth grade mathematics or supporting that. But the fact that those efforts are happening, I think is a great thing. And I think that's probably why we're seeing us trending above the state at least. Though, I mean, I think we all agree we've got a long ways to go before we're going to be happy with where we're at. But this is a hard one to crack. It's a tough one. Anyway, that was my soapbox there.
I appreciate everyone's leaning in. This is why we're here, talking about our student achievement and what gets us excited, I wanted just to support what we've been talking about. You know, we were very clear last year when we were talking about strategic design and strategic plan. The state did not require any mathematics. And we were saying we weren't okay with that, and our staff's not okay with that. And what I want to highlight as we think about supporting our elementary team is so passionate about making sure our kids get the support in mathematics as well. I mean, you heard it tonight, but they are like creative and innovatively saying, how do we get them excited about math heading into middle school? And our middle school team is passionate about working with our students around mindset as well. Because at that juncture of their bodies and lives are changing, and it's a fun and adventurous time. Some students have developed a negative mindset around math. I mean, some adults have that and tell their students about it in an innocent way. But what we are trying to combat is that, because we do believe that sending them off to high school before high school with, yes, the skills piece, but also that mindset approach that I can do it. I can do it. Even if they don't maybe love it yet, I can do it. And it's our job continually to bring forth, how does it show up in real life? Because that's what we hear a lot. And we're excited about that. We've made some good strides, but we're excited about the next 3 to 4 years. Having a map as a universal way to kind of monitor that, and Matt, that was what you were speaking of, that's going to be an incredible opportunity for our district. And so I'm appreciative of you, of our team leaning in together with us on that. But I'm just blown away by our staff and how passionate they are about taking us to that next level, making sure kids are excited. There's my 2 cents, sorry.
All right. Next slide. On track. So we are continuing to maintain our 9th grade on track average there, sitting at 95% of our freshmen on 9th grade on track last year. So our goal is just to continue doing so. And then again, we're maintaining our 4-year graduation rate and our 5-year completer or graduation rate sitting around 97% and 97.5%. And just a note on this is 23, 24. As you may remember, this is always a year behind the previous year for this, but our outcomes were really, really strong for students leaving high school. So some of the key strategies that I spoke about, not all of them, but most of them I spoke about throughout the presentation, is just newly adopted instructional materials at middle school and high school. Those are invaluable materials, and getting high quality materials in front of our students really is important, and it allows our teachers time so that they can focus on the instruction and working with the student and not having to search and find supplements with their prep and free time. And then our professional learning communities, our teachers are working so hard to build clarity and collect evidence of learning, and then supporting students in understanding the content and the skills involved, and really narrowing it down to what is the skill that students need to learn and how will students be successful, and then teaching them about the ways that they can be successful in learning those skills. And so they spend countless hours doing this work and getting clarity of their own learning of the standard and skill, and then sharing that with students so that students know exactly what they need to be doing. And then that high dosage intervention and tutoring, we're just looking at how do we expand this, because we know it's really important for students, especially students who maybe have a lagging skill or a need. We are continuing to leverage Flex. So at the middle school, we have Flex twice a week right now. And we're looking at how do we improve and leverage that time with students in order to support intervention, or for students who maybe want some enrichment in these areas. And then we're really looking at tiered interventions that are steeped in evidence, and we talked a little bit about that. But we want our intervention practices to work, and we want them tied to some sort of research that shows that they're working. And so we want them to be normed. We want them to be used with a variety of different types of students so that we can understand and use materials or interventions or strategies that work. And so if students, for example, Matt, you mentioned fractions. If they don't understand fractions, we don't want to just keep doing the same thing with them, but we want to find different modes of learning and then apply them to those students because maybe they learn in a different way. And so really looking at different evidence-based interventions to support our students and teachers. Okay, so our next steps, we really are, we want to maintain our graduation rate. We're really proud of that, and that is always a goal of our high school, and they do an excellent job of meeting students where they are and supporting them as they move through their 4 years at Sherwood High School. We want to continue to increase our core academic areas and increase our growth over time. I wanted to mention a little bit about assessment participation. So we saw a decline in assessment participation at our high school. Overall, our state assessment participation was really strong, but it definitely took a dip at our high school. And so we're looking at different ways to improve that. So just to give you the numbers there, in language arts K-12, our participation was at 91%. And in math, it was at 89.9%. But in our 11th grade, it looked a lot different. It was sitting around 59% of our 11th graders participated in language arts, and 56% of our 11th graders participated in math. And there's a lot of reasons for that. Spring is full of assessments. And so we have all of our AP assessments, we have ACT assessments, and then we have our state assessments. And so we know that students just have a lot of testing in the spring at high school. And AP is college credit bearing. And so many students, and then ACT is if you want to get into college, you want that high ACT score. And the Oregon State Assessment doesn't really have any sort of teeth to it for our students right now. You don't need to complete it to graduate high school like you maybe have in years past. And so we did see a pretty significant decrease in participation, and we'd like to see that increase. And we have some different incentives that we're working on at the high school for that to increase participation there. But I did want to let you know about that specifically.
Okay. I have a thought on that. I think I it's shocking. Shocking. I think this is I'm curious if we'll ever see a trend that isn't as low in the upper grade, only because I think that those kids that are the 11th and 12th graders now have a memory of being able to opt out during COVID. And I think that might be something to that. The lower grades don't have that memory and don't get that option, where my junior is like, I don't want to take that. Get me out of it. Opt me out. And I go, no, we need your data.
Thank you for doing that.
So
I appreciate that.
Well, I'm not saying it's good. I'm just saying they need it. But I'm curious if that would be like a trend we look at in the next couple of years, of that kind of phasing out that attitude. But
Yeah, I agree. I think that we're seeing higher attendance, higher participation at the younger grades than we did prior. And then this cohort was significantly impacted by COVID in their middle years. And so I think it makes a lot of sense. And that's a good assumption there. And then we're going to continue to work on attendance and increasing those scores. So I think I said at the beginning, ultimately we set goals that are achievable, But, you know, in the long-term goals, we want to see our attendance back at that 90% rate that was prior to COVID. We're not there yet, but we're getting a lot closer.
Thank you. All right, Millie. Is she awake? Let's talk some pre-kindergarten.
Okay.
Miss Millie Wilkinson.
Danny, you have to figure out when I want to click. You just have to read my mind, okay? Can you guys hear me okay? Yeah? Yeah? Let's talk louder. Okay, thanks for having me tonight, you guys. I'm excited to share about pre-K. Do you have the slide deck ready? I'm like, am I winging this? Okay. Yeah, so I'm going to share with you tonight about pre-K, a little bit about what pre-K has looked like over the past several years in Sherwood, and then our plans for the coming school year as well. So a little bit of information just about the importance of early learning. There's a lot of research about early learning and how pre-K specifically can help students in the short term, but also in the long term. So pre-K provides foundational skills and structures that really help students to be prepared when they enter kindergarten, and it actually reduces their risk for academic struggles long term, which is great. Direct instruction in phonics and math, we just have been talking about this stuff all night. That makes a huge impact when students enter school, and again, has long-term effects for student success. Pre-K also provides social emotional support for students and learning. And so students learn how to have positive interactions with their peers and with adults. They also learn how to manage their emotions and have self-regulation. And again, long-term effects for that. It can also help mitigate achievement disparities. So we've been talking about intervention all night as well. And pre-K and early learning specifically provide a critical point for intervention. So we can catch those kids earlier that need some support and provide that support so when they enter kindergarten, hopefully there's less of a gap and those kids have the supports that they need to be successful. And then long-term educational gains. The research is really interesting around this. Students who participate in pre-K have higher graduation rates, higher test scores, and lower retention rates. So really interesting that the benefits are not just specific to pre-K and kindergarten, but can really be throughout their educational career. So a little bit of history about pre-K here in Sherwood. So we launched the program in 2022. And originally we had some funding coming from the ESD to support those programs. So that was integrated into our budget and our planning. And then in August of 2023, so right before school started, the ESD's budget was cut. And so they pulled their funding from our program. So that was really late in the game for us. Too late to pivot. We'd already accepted our students, set our tuition rates, and we didn't want to leave those families kind of in the lurch. So we operated at a financial loss to the district for the next couple of years with that in motion, because those cuts significantly affected our funding stream that we had to provide pre-K. So in 2024, we had partial day programs. Those were about 2.5 hours. They operated at Middleton and Hawksview, and we had 15 students in the Middleton program and 8 in Hawksview. And so those programs we always hoped would get to their full capacity of 20, but they never really did. And so we knew that we needed to do something different for our 2025 program that we have in place this year. So we did a big kind of overhaul of the program, and we moved to 100% tuition-based funding. So now all of our expenses, our teachers that we're paying, our IAs, all of the materials and things that we need, that's fully funded through our tuition model. And so basically the way that that worked was I just took all of those costs and divided it actually among 18 for our tuition so that we can bake 2 scholarships into each program as well. So in each site, there are 2 families or 2 students that are benefiting from a full scholarship, which is really nice because all of the benefits I just talked about with pre-K are so important for all of our students, and some of our families just can't afford that, but we know that all of our kids can really benefit from pre-K. The other new thing that was new for this year was a payment process. We had payments due, but we didn't have a solid protocol in place to follow up on those payments or ensure that families were making those payments on time. And so we put that into place, and that's been really helpful. We have a lot of communication with them. That's helpful to our district and our budget, but it's also helpful for families that we don't let them get into this big hole that then they're trying to dig out of later, right? When they're all of the sudden trying to go to prom and they can't buy their prom tickets or whatever it is down the road, whatever barrier we have in place there to get our payment.
One of the biggest changes that we made is, I know I heard this as a principal, and I'm sure the board heard this too, is we really had kind of a clamor from our community about wanting a full day option. The families were really, some of our families, that 2-hour program, 2.5 hours, that worked okay, but we knew that we needed to provide full day. And so this year we provided a full day option that mirrors the school day from 7:55 to 2:15. And we also offered a true half day. So it goes until 11. We also partnered with Champions because we knew some families wouldn't be able to pick their students up at 2:15, and we needed a childcare option for those full day students. And so we have that at Ridges as well, which has been really great. We did tons of promotion last year because this was new and we needed to get the word out. We knew that some of our families that would be entering pre-K, it was their oldest student. And so we wouldn't be able to get the word to them through our classic avenues of newsletters and things like that. But we still used school and district newsletters. We totally revamped our website. We put together a promo video and lots of information there. You probably saw our yard signs pop up all over the community. That was our creative way of getting the word out to maybe some of our younger families. You probably seen our flyers and like handles and the YMCA. We were just trying to reach far and wide. And then we also partnered with the Flip Museum and had a Saturday event where families could come in and ask questions and play all kinds of games and do different activities. And we had our pre-K teachers there and our early learning coordinator as well, so we could all answer questions and meet the families. So after all of that, we built some excitement around it, and we had lots of families fill out our interest form and register. And another change that we did this year was we decided rather than determining the sites and just keeping it at those sites, we were going to determine the sites based on the family's interest. So we asked families, what's your home school? Are you willing to travel to another school? Do you have other students in the school? And so from all of that, we gathered that data and then we used that to determine our sites. So the majority of our full day families were interested in Ridges, and the majority of our half day families were interested in Middleton. So we announced those sites next. We saw a tiny bit of movement, but honestly, not as much as we thought was going to happen. And then, can you go back one more? Sorry, Danny. What was really exciting about that was that this year our sites are at capacity. Both of them are at 20. We have 2 scholarships at each site, and we're also able to serve students on IFSPs, which is kind of like an IEP. It's a family plan. So students that need specialized services, we have those students in our program as well and have been serving them. And we're really excited because we're at capacity and we've stayed there all year and are net zero for the district with our tuition-based model. Okay, now I'm ready. Thanks. So some of our core program components are really similar. They kind of mirror what I said about the benefits of early learning. So we have those academic foundations. Students are receiving instruction in phonics, early numeracy, language development. And what's really great is we have certified teachers teaching these students, and we also have curriculum that is the same curriculum that we're using in literacy and math and phonics. We're also using that K-5 is what we're using in pre-K, so that's been really great too. Holistic growth, we're teaching students social emotional skills and they're implementing those through purposeful play. So for example, there might be a dramatic play area where they're playing like they're in a ice cream shop. And so that's a purposeful play way of like sharing, taking turns, regulating my emotion when I have to wait for my turn. And the teacher kind of coaches them through that. But that's a really applicable way that they're using those skills. And that's really what pre-K looks like. If you ask the kids what they like doing, they'll tell you all day they're playing, but they're really learning through play, which is so great. In our full day program, those students have a rest time. They also get to go to lunch in the cafeteria, which they love. And then in both programs, they have access to the library and specials like STEM and music and PE. And this picture is just so cute of them holding hands and painting. I have a few videos to show you. I'm hoping you'll be able to hear them. I just thought I like to bring in speakers, but I don't know if a 4-year-old would have the courage to really tell you what it looks like. So I have some videos of what it looks like in the classroom, which I'll explain, and then a couple of just what the kids like about being in pre-K. I can skip these. You want me to skip the videos? That's okay. Oh, you can't hear him though. Oh, you can kind of hear it. He was basically counting. So he put down these buttons and counted to 8, and then he said, "I did 8." And really, like, you know, counting to 8 is kind of a big deal when you're 4. So that was just showing how the math. That's fine. You can go to the next one. Oh, you can hear me. Great. That's what everybody wants to hear is me twice. This little girl was sounding out letters as she was spelling a word. And so if you ever get a chance to see them do their phonics work, you'll see that she's really applying a lot of what she's learned. So she's trying to spell rainbow, and she's going rainbow, but, and so she's putting down the letters as she's saying them. So you can see that phonics connection. And then the next couple, I don't know if you'll be able to hear, but we asked them, what do you like about pre-K and what are you learning about? Okay, let's just go past that. One of them said she's learning how to be kind, and that she likes recess, which was kind of funny because those things go together, right? Like she's learning the SEL skill of being kind, and she's probably practicing that at recess, but doesn't realize it. And then the other one said she liked letters and numbers. So it was really cute. So we are launching, kind of preparing for next year already. You may have seen our yard signs popping up, and you'll see more of those. Our interest form went live on Monday. And just to give you a point of reference, last year at this time, we had 9 interest forms. And as of this afternoon, we have 47. So we're very excited about our program and the momentum that we've gained. We had an event on Saturday, and we had a ton of families come to that. A lot of them had already registered, but some more registering, and they're like, do I have my spot? Am I going to get in? Like, where am I on the list? Should I just put my name on both in case I want half day later? So that's been really excited. I feel like our program had a little some like instability for a little while there, and I feel like we're on some good footing. We have an open house coming up on Wednesday at Middleton and Ridges in the pre-K classrooms. And then our plan is just to have a lot of visibility with the yard signs, communication through the newsletters, and just getting the word out. We plan to announce the sites on April 3rd. If we can get to a place where we have this level of interest that turns into this number of registrations, it's possible that we will announce sooner. We're aware that our families have to put deposits in somewhere, and that local pre-Ks kind of put the pressure on to get that early, and we don't want them to be put in a bind because a lot of those deposits aren't refundable. So they've been asking us to announce sooner, so we will try. I think that is kind of all of the preparing for this year. I think the next slide is just asking if there are questions.
I don't have any questions, but I just can't tell you how much I love this for this community. Seriously, you've done so much work and it's been so thoughtful. This is a program that builds momentum with enrollment in community, with bridging those gaps from pre-K through elementary school, all of those things. Even though it is not something that is funded from like the ESD or the district, you don't also want to rely on that type of funding because you don't want to take it away. And so I know that it's a pay for full day and a half day, but in the long run, it is more stable that way, and it gives parents an option. And it keeps kids in our community, and I'm just so excited for this. I know it's been building a little bit, but your interest already at 47 already. I mean, it's a great problem to have. So
yeah,
this is awesome.
Yeah, well, thank you. We're excited. I hope that you guys will get to visit pre-K when you do your site visits. Aaron and I talked about that. Yeah.
We are.
Pre-K teachers are amazing.
Thank you so much. And I just wanted to publicly thank Millie for her enthusiasm, and it's been fun to watch and support her and her leadership on this, but also want to highlight, we have a principal out there as well, Miss Miranda, and our other principals that are just as passionate and love being in those classrooms and love taking superintendents into those classrooms and just counting to 8 and talking about rainbows. It is awesome. But I'm just thankful for your leadership and your passion, because it is contagious. So thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, I think everybody's sick of me talking about pre-K, to be honest, recently.
So Millie, just a quick question as well, this more clarifying question. You mentioned there's other pre-Ks waiting, that parents might be waiting on,
Mhm.
meaning could you go to another district? And also, to piggyback on
Mhm.
that, what do you read in the community, the role of the preschools or the preschools that exist
Mhm.
already? I'm thinking of Cozy Cottage, which doesn't exist anymore, but back in the day, those
Mhm.
kinds of things. Are they similar? Are they different? I think they're
Mhm.
different,
Mhm.
but,
Yeah,
so it's not competition, but yet
yeah,
there is a certain amount of.
yeah, that's right.
So
And they've
how-
been around much longer.
So how does this all fit together? My initial impression was that pre-K, and this
Mhm.
is naive, was an attempt to bring people that needed a head start, so to
Mhm.
speak,
Mhm.
in.
Mhm.
Seems to me this is not necessarily that. This is open, tuition-based schooling.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, that's right. So I think one of the things, to answer your question, that makes our program different than some of the surrounding, like in the community, there's daycare, but there also are some daycares that provide pre-K. And one of the big differences is that we have curriculum that is evidence-based, that links to what we're doing in our schools, but we also have certified teachers. And so those teachers have master's degrees. Some of them, like their new pre-K teacher has been teaching pre-K for 14 years. And then our other pre-K teacher is a very experienced teacher as well, that has like K through, I think, pre-K through third grade experience. Is that right, Brady? Okay. It's Brady's wife. So I think I'm very biased. I could get on my soapbox and tell you how all the ways that our program is better, but those are, I think, the two biggest ways. To piggyback even more on top of that, we did like a cost analysis with local pre-Ks and daycares and compared that to what we're charging, and we're right in the mix. So considering that we have these really highly qualified teachers and evidence-based curriculum that we know they're going to continue with through their education in elementary school, I think it's like hands down the best. And also, we have a lot of people have said, like, our teachers that have kids in the program and also community members, I think, like you said, Harmony, like that is why we're getting the momentum, is because I think people are seeing their kids grow so much in these programs. So it's really interesting, because if you don't know what it looks like, it does kind of feel like, well, all pre-Ks are probably the same. But if you know what you're looking for, ours is way better.
But I think that's true too. If it's your first kid, you don't really know what you're looking for,
Mhm.
and when one of my kids was in pre-K, I think he was there for 3 months and I was like, I don't think I ever saw him write his name yet in 3 months, where I knew my older kid had done that. So they really are not all the same.
Mhm.
And we actually did move him because we just were like, you got to be doing something while you're here for hours a day,
Yeah, yeah.
We want you to make some progress. So I think to be able to go to school and really learn from a teacher and be following actual curriculum is pretty amazing.
Mhm.
It's not to say that other pre-Ks don't offer that, but it's also a really cool service to be part of your school district already,
Mhm.
and to be aware of all the programs that are offered and the sports, and that,
Mhm.
I mean, you just have such a bigger network of people
Mhm.
once you start being in the school system. I would have loved that if it had been around when my kids were
Yeah.
younger. So
And all of the enrichment stuff, like the specials and all of that. But if you ask the kids, it's the hot lunch
yes.
and it's the hot lunch and PE, I think, are the big sellers for them.
But it is always funny with pre-K. Like one of the things I noticed in the video is like, oh wow, that kid does a really great job of holding, I don't know if it was a pencil or a
Mhm.
marker, but like
Mhm.
and you realize like when you go through a pre-K program, like there's a lot of work that goes in
Mhm.
to teaching a kid to like hold a pencil correctly so that they can write when they
Mhm.
get to kindergarten.
Yep.
And
Yep.
so there's a
Exactly.
lot of, you know, your kid starts pre-K and you're like, what, why are you doing all these things that you do? And it's not until you get to the end where you realize, oh yeah, all that stuff
Yep,
has
it
a
all comes
point
together.
and it
Yep.
sets kids on a path. So this is awesome.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Ms. Amanda Hollenberg with the academic calendar's first read for 26-27 and 27-28.
All right. Is that what we just go with that? Good evening. Thank you for the time and the opportunity to share the great work of our calendar committee. I've got Miss Miranda Johnson here and Maria, who are going to add to the presentation and share a little bit of their perspective and how we came about the proposals that we have for you tonight. If you take a look at the names up there, these are the folks that gave us a lot of their time and creative thinking to create the proposals for the 26, 27, and the 27, 28 school calendars. Every year, every 2 years, the board will look at and adopt 2 calendars for the upcoming school years. And the hope is this will increase the communication for our school community, board members, and staff so they can plan ahead and know what is coming. I personally want to say thank you to Director Hawkins for being the rep on the board, and these 2 ladies who, at the very end of our last meeting, I said, is anyone willing to come and share and speak, and cleared out really quickly. But these 2 ladies still stayed and said that they'd be willing. So, thank you, and thank you for staying so late. Part of the parameter, creating a calendar is a puzzle, and I think of it as like every stakeholder is a piece, every parameter that we need to follow is a piece. So some of those bigger items that we have to stay within that are part of our puzzle, I'm going to speak to. The first is our collective bargaining agreements, and the first one here is the SEA. So this is our teachers union. We have 190 contract days to play with, and 179 and a half of those need to be class days. We need to have the equivalent of 2 1/2 work days and 3 grading days following each trimester. In this bargaining group, they have 5 paid holidays. We also have 1 statewide in-service day, which is a no contract, which means they are not here for work. And then last, we have the professional development days that are determined by the district, and that is that for that group. Now, if we move forward to OSEA, this group is a little bit trickier because we have calendars that vary in length depending upon the role. So 12-month employees typically have a 260-day work calendar, and they have 11 paid holidays, where employees who work less than 12 months have the 5 paid holidays. Moving on, Danny. The next big, huge puzzle piece is the requirements from the state. So we have an OAR that defines how many minutes we need to have for each of these grade levels. And you can see grade 12, we have 966, grades 9 through 11, 990, and grades 6 through 8, 900 instructional hours. I'm really proud to share with you that the 2 proposed calendars that we have both have 5 days built within it for inclement weather. And that has bode us well in the past when we have had those one-off storms and extra days needed to be made up. In addition to these totals, with the board approval, part of that is it does not include passing time, lunch, recess, or non-academic assemblies. But it does include up to the max amount of time that we could add, which is for the professional development and teacher conferences of 30 hours each. All right. So some of the biggest things that I want to highlight, and then I'll pass it over to these ladies to share a little bit more in depth, are these big items, which is one, we believe this version or these versions of the new calendar are are tied to our strategic plan in the sense of it is a focus of communication. And we believe the makeover that the calendars have got will lend itself to being more user-friendly. We've added anecdotal notes adjacent to the boxes, which the months lay to directly specify what box. And you no longer have to go across. You can read it straight down, which was some of the feedback that we had heard from the community. The committee was tasked with, as you come up with proposals or new ideas, to tie it back to our strategic question of how does this contribute to a joyful community of learners? And I will say that every person on this team, one, they did an amazing job being a liaison with bringing back ideas from their groups and advocating, but also just some really creative thinking and ideas came out of this group. And when you look at it, I can honestly say it's like a melting pot of everyone that was in that room, and the hours that we spent looking at this, there was not an idea that we didn't try. I said earlier in when we were practicing, we didn't shy away from change, and you will see that. And we also believe that every single one of the changes we've made does contribute to a joyful community of learners, either directly to the students or the larger audience at hand. Another change that you will see is our professional development days. We have got a professional development day that we have identified in the spring to adjust from a typical Monday right after the spring break to a Friday. And this was a creative idea that came out of the parent group and the community of, when we already have long extended times off, would it be possible, or could we look at ways or opportunities to decrease that or not add an additional day on? So for example, in the spring break, you're already off 7 days, and that 8th day seems extremely long for those kiddos that really need to get back to a routine. In addition to our families that have working parents, and the feedback was, can we try switching from a day off of a Friday, from a Monday to a Friday? Those sometimes seem to be a little bit easier to maneuver schedules. And the driver, though, which I think was the best part of this change, and the initial talking spot, was when posed with the question of does this contribute to a joyful community of learners? The original idea was, do these long stretches of time off, what does that look like if you are a student that is experiencing homelessness, or a student that has food insecurities, or a single parent that's, working 2 jobs and is managing? And that then led to a great length of discussion of what does this look like, and what does the Monday impact versus the Friday impact. We also learned that the winter professional development is really critical for all teachers, but we heard specifically at the elementary level as they are finishing up units and then they come back after the new year. And so we have, for the first time, we're going to try a hybrid model where we've got a professional development day where we've always had it, and then we have another one in the spring that is a little bit different date that's a derivative of this creative thinking. And then we will monitor that and see how it goes the next couple of years, and I'm sure come back with you with feedback once we give it a shot. The other thing is, you will see there is a limited amount of instruction interruption. There's the saying of no school November. I'll get it wrong, but you'll see that in both these calendars, we've got some really good stints in the fall and in the spring following those conferences where we're going to school and we don't have days off, and that's a unique calendar, and we're really proud that we were able to get that. In addition to, we've put together the elementary and the middle conferences, and feedback from those levels was a little bit later when we were having them. What seemed almost a little too late. And so if we could bump them up, but we knew that we also wanted to keep them with the middle school. So finding that sweet spot of what would work well for the elementary level, but also the middle school. And so you'll see that reflected on the calendars. And then the last big driver of this big puzzle piece was the importance of finishing Tri-1 before Thanksgiving. And the high school specifically shared that it's just really difficult when you come back from a Thanksgiving break if you have just a couple of days and you're wrapping up. And so we worked hard to get that Tri-1 complete before Labor Day, or before Thanksgiving, which hard because we had also had feedback of starting after Labor Day, right? And so all of these ideas are wonderful. I wish we could get all of them in one calendar, and the reality is we can't. But I think the proposal that we're bringing to you guys tonight is a really good hybrid of a lot of really great ideas from not just the stakeholders that were in the room, but our larger, broader community. So I'm going to hand it over to Miranda and Maria to share a little bit about their experience being on the calendar committee and a few other things.
Good evening. Thanks for letting me join you tonight to share a little bit about my time on the calendar committee. As Amanda shared, Mr. Van Fleet and Mr. Mitchell from the middle and the high school and I were the 3 admin reps on the team. And so as a part of this process, we were tasked with getting feedback from our staff. And so we opened that up to our group of staff members to find out kind of what they valued in a calendar, what they enjoyed about the current calendar, or potential changes that they might want in the future. We also spent time on that committee really listening to the other stakeholders that were at the meeting, realizing that, you know, while our teachers play an important role in that conversation, that we also have parents and families and other groups that were speaking into the calendar conversation as well. And so working to balance in those conversations the needs of our staff members as well as the other needs that we were hearing upcoming throughout the committee meeting. I'm ready for my slide. Perfect. I won't read all of these to you, but this is kind of a summary of just the general overview of the majority of the comments that we receive from staff. We always find that, of course, there are staff members on every side of these topics. Not, you know, no one is ever completely unified around one change or one piece of feedback. But in general, we found that our staff members were hoping to start closer to Labor Day, just as a way to create. They really like that soft rollout to the school year with, you know, the way it's been previously has been kind of a 3-day week, then a 4-day week with Labor Day, and then we really start to jump into those 5-day weeks in September. And so they valued that start, you know, kind of before Labor Day, hoping not too far into August was the feedback we got, still allowing them to have Thanksgiving break off, as we know attendance isn't great, especially high school mentioned that, and then finishing as early in June, you know, as possible given those dates. They also enjoy having our ramp up days with just kindergarten and 6th grade and 9th grade. Teams felt that that was really valuable time to just have a day in the building with their newest learners to kind of get to know and acclimate them, as well as Amanda talked about having that thoughtful plan for professional development days throughout the year. It was also, as she mentioned, helpful at secondary to have the end of trimester fall before Thanksgiving. That was one of the key points that Adam brought from his team, as well as they really enjoyed the way the current calendar fell. One of their conference days backed up to our statewide in-service day in October, and that was something that the high school really appreciated and was hoping to have replicated on future calendars. And then, as Amanda shared, also our elementary team had really overwhelmingly asked that we revisit when the spring conferences were. As some of you might remember, many, many years ago, we kind of had a one conference day in January and, you know, spring conferences in May, so it was kind of broken up differently in the year. That has changed over the years, and so finding now that May conferences just 4 or 5 weeks before the end of the school year didn't leave a lot of time for teachers to be able to connect and give a lot of feedback or input. And so really wanting to move those, there was a wide range of what people were hoping for in that. But I think in listening to the community and other stakeholders, we were really wanting to stay aligned with the middle school. And so that also had some constraints with what worked well for their schedule. And so I think you'll see a good compromise of that on both of the drafts to be able to bump those up considerably for elementary and yet not impact when the middle school conferences fall as well. So as I shared, as a part of that process, we brought our feedback to the table and then spent, our meetings, listening to other stakeholders, working to create the best drafts possible given the input that we received from all of those groups. And so we're pretty excited about the drafts to share with you tonight. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Maria to share a little bit about what it looked like from her perspective as a parent and a community member.
Hello, my name is Maria Berglund, and I wore the parent hat at the calendar committee meetings. I want to say first that I was grateful for the opportunity to participate in something like this. I enjoy volunteering in the kids' schools, and so to have the chance to represent fellow parents in something at the district level was really fun for me. I shared the many conferring moments with Abby, but I also got to sit, in groups with other district staff and administrators. And I really felt that the word genuine has been used a lot today, but I feel like Amanda and the group overall really cared genuinely to hear each other and to represent their stakeholders as best that they could. There was a lot of conversation and a lot of listening, and I thought it was really cool and interesting to be part of. I had no idea how much went into putting these calendars together. Just, I don't know, as a parent who hasn't had to do something like this before, getting to you just get the district calendar and you plan accordingly. And so this was a very good, gave me a lot of insight into this, and I shared it. I took a lot of care in my role and reached out to a lot of different types of pockets of parents in the community just to make sure that I was doing the best job that I could. And I just, thanks, Amanda. That I think it was a really good experience, and it was fun to be able to share what was happening in the meetings with those parents who provided feedback. And I feel like a lot of these points were already addressed. But I think the biggest concern for parents was to have kids in school as much as possible and to start school after Labor Day, which Labor Day start is late the next 2 years. So I want to put like a disclaimer on that we did have that conversation, and we're starting school in these calendars in September, which I feel like is a win. So families get the full like summer experience, but we're not starting school like in the teens of August. It's nice that it's in September. And then having elementary and middle school conferences together was really important for us because families like mine who have middle school children and elementary age children, if you're a working parent, trying to find that someone to watch your children in elementary is hard, but if you have a middle school age child that you can lend out to your elementary families, or you can use them yourself, because the kids can't always come to the elementary conferences, so that makes it really hard as a parent. So I'm grateful that we were able to put those conference days together. And then just the formatting of the calendar. I personally had people tell me that they wish that they could read the calendar better and just be able to look at it and know, like, I need childcare for these days, and not to have to put on binoculars to find all the days and everything. So I appreciate all the efforts that Amanda took to make it a positive experience and to feel like we were all heard. And yeah, anyway, thank you.
All right. Questions?
I don't have any questions, but being a part, I've done this for lots of years now. And so I did feel like this year was the most collaborative effort that I've ever felt in those meetings. There was a lot of consideration, and for families who really, really desperately wanted to be starting after Labor Day, we were maybe going to start 1 week earlier than you're looking at right here. So be grateful that you're coming in the beginning of September. We knew that would be a stretch for a lot of families. And I think this was a good attempt to hold off as long as we could. The other thing I think it's important for parents to understand, when we sat through those conversations, and I think Maria will agree with me, there was so much conversation about where to put PD days so that they were useful, useful to admin, useful for teachers, useful for planning, that it wasn't a throwaway day or a wasted day. I mean, a lot of conversation around that. And I know for parents, it's just like another day off. And so they really don't regard it as a day that a lot of work gets done. In fact, this last Monday, was it this last Monday? Oh, a week ago, I took my child to a dance camp at the high school, and every parent around me was like, why are there people in the building? And I was, oh, they're here for work. Like they don't actually have the day off today. And parents weren't really aware, like they thought teachers also had the day off that day. And so I really value that. It's important. It matters that our teachers are willing to argue about what day makes the most sense because they actually want it to be very productive. It's important.
Yep.
So when they look at this calendar, whether you love it or hate it, whether it extends your vacation or cuts it short or whatever, know there was a lot of conversation that went into it. So I think the hybrid model is good, and it will give us a good opportunity to see if it works out better one way or the other.
Yep.
So
Thank you.
thank you for heading up this committee. I think this is a very good calendar.
All right.
I really appreciate Maria stating the fact that she didn't realize how much work goes into creating 2 years worth of calendaring for 3 different levels of school. It is funny when these come out and you hear like my vacation's been cut short, and then given all the multitude of factors that have to be and rules that have to be followed in instructional hours, it's pretty funny, but it's also frustrating for all the work of every committee member that puts into this. So I say kudos. I think we're on the right path. I love hearing that it was the most, collaborative effort for someone who's been on this committee a long time, and you putting in so much effort to wrangle the team that can best represent what we really need here. So thank you so much.
Thank you. All right. Thank you.
No, thank you to Maria. And then just one reminder to everybody from the conversation we just had is if you're mad about some aspect of the calendar, just know there's an equal but opposite number of people who had the opposing opinion. And so this is where we end up.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Marlene, you're up for policy update. First
Okay.
read.
So in early fall, we came to you with a variety of policies, including the recommendation to update policy JFCEB, the personal electronic devices policy. And we had just not included the recommended AR to go along with that. And so that is what we're including tonight. This is just the AR that goes along with that policy, and we are just bringing it forward to you for first read and review.
Questions? No? Thank you very much. Okay, on to action items. I'm just having PTSD from meetings 3 years ago. How long this meeting is. Okay. I hope you three can get it together on your motions and seconds. Okay, action items for appointment of budget committee members.
I move we appoint Danielle Groves to Budget Committee position number 2, effective immediately for a 3-year term expiring June 30, 2027.
Wonderful. Is there a second?
Second.
All right. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay, motion carries 5-0.
I move we appoint Derek Thomas to Budget Committee position number 3, effective immediately for a 3-year term expiring on June 30, 2028.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carries 5-0. Third motion.
I recommend we appoint Deborah T.O. Shepherd to Budget Committee position number 5, effective immediately for a 3-year term expiring June 30, 2028.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
All right.
Second.
Yep. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carries 5-0. Right, the Budget Committee. All right, on to the second item. We have our Northwest Regional ESD 26-27 Local Service Plan, Ms. Marlene Carroll.
All right. Danny, we're gonna click through the first few slides, but I'll just tell you which ones as we go. We can start here.
Give us the highlight.
Here we go. Oh, back. Let's go to the one that says Spotlight. Yep. Yep, that's the one. Let's go ahead and start there. Tonight I'm going to share a little bit about our partners with our regional ESD and talk about how their programs and partnerships support Sherwood. And then we're bringing you the recommendation to vote on our local service option tonight as an action item. So just to highlight a few things for Sherwood specifically that were supported by our ESD is our outdoor school program. If your student has participated or will participate in outdoor school, that is primarily the responsibility, and we contract through the Northwest Regional ESD, and they support us with that work. 71 students in Sherwood are served by the ESD through early childhood special education. And so that's students who aren't in our school system yet, unless they're in our pre-K program. We have 5 students that attend the ESD social emotional learning schools, 2 students enrolled in migrant ed program. Some of our staffing for programs through special education that we don't need maybe a full-time staff for or like a 0.8 staff for, we'll contract through the ESD. And so we do have some of our support staff contracted through the ESD. And then the ESD is running an aspiring administrators program. A couple of our educators who maybe are interested in being administrators participate in that program. Ryan, who was here, is one of our educators who's participating in the aspiring administrators program through the ESD, as well as some of our other educators. And so that is some of the ways. And then some of those programs to the right that you just saw are also supported through the ESD. Okay, now we can go ahead. I'm going to review our local service plan and what the ESD is supporting us with and different components of that. So the thing to pay most attention to where we receive quite a bit of our services is through the core service plan, that top item, and then there's menu services. We have some of those. They are in addition to, so we pay for those. And then that integrated guidance technical assistance plan is support with that integrated programs that we, those grants that we use. Next slide. So your role tonight is each year their school board will have to adopt a local the education service district plan, but your role tonight is to approve this plan or not approve this plan. And then they have to get 2/3 of their supporting districts to support the plan in order to move forward with it as it stands. All right. So Oregon funds a portion of the state school fund. It flows through our ESDs, and so about 4.5%, as you can see. And 10% of those funds go to fund the ESD operations, whereas 90% is directed by the school districts. And so how they allocate that is about 75% of those dollars go to individual school districts, and then 25% of that allocation is spent on core services. So Some of those core services that we receive are funded through that 25%. The other is, Gary mentioned it in his presentation, kind of how those monies are used at the EISD and what we can use them for. So this is our core services. And you have seen this packet, so I'm gonna jump to the next portion of this. And then here is the timeline, which I've already kind of talked about, but it's important to note that the superintendents of the region did get together and they unanimously approved this core service plan already. And then we bring it to school district boards for your vote. So just as a part of our core service program, just some things to note that we use. We use many of the technology supports there, from Forecast 5 to the library services. College and Career and Workforce is new to us this year for School Links, and that is actually a budget savings item. So we used to pay for a program out of our budget in teaching and learning. And now our ESD offers that to us, and so that saves us funding. So different core services can be really beneficial, especially in times where money is really tight. And then some of the education programs that we participate in is Ninth Grade Success Network. That BASIS program, we do a lot of work with our attendance and social emotional learning, our mental health supports, and how we support students with that. And then workforce development. Next slide. The menu services are services that we can purchase in addition to, and I'll walk through some of those that we use. So some of the programs that we purchase through the ESD and then they support us with, those are the Educator Pipeline Program, things like early intervention and early childhood. You know, when we had about 70 students within Sherwood participating in that. Next slide. Our attendance and re-engagement services, when we need to, we can contract those services as well. So that's for students who maybe we can't reach, but we know there are students and they quit maybe coming to school. We can get support through our ESD, and that's per concern. We can pay in addition to that. We have used Cascade Education Court in the past. Our dual credit program supports our dual credit econ course and our Spanish dual credit course at our high school, and that's through Willamette Promise and the ESD. Some of you may be familiar with BizTown and Junior Achievement. That's through the ESD, that program, and then Outdoor School. The next slide is special education. So these are some of maybe those support services that maybe we don't have full time, but we do need them to support our students in their learning needs. Go ahead to the next slide. Again, technology services that we use, and the next slide is around that Student Success Act and integrated technical guidance. And so they have staff on site that really support us with navigating the different grants. How do we support our community and getting that information out, and has been really helpful. Next slide. Sorry. So here, there is a proposed cut to early literacy supports. As you can see, that might be a potential reduction, and that is something that the ESD wants us to know, and specifically wants you to know. As you were talking about advocacy earlier, we really want to continue supporting our early literacy learners and all that, the great work that has been done. It's also important to note that ODE has proposed cuts to the RUN budget. That was what supported when we did the third-party survey with Studer. We applied for that through a grant through the ESD, and we were awarded that grant. And so it's doing really good work across Oregon, but that's another area that legislatures are looking at reducing. I've talked too much tonight. All right, next slide. These are grant funded and value add services. And so we're gonna move through this really quickly, Danny. Yep, okay. So you can see some of the things that we use here in Sherwood. Let's go ahead to the next slide. All right, and to make it nice and easy, this is what we would recommend you do is to authorize the Northwest Regional ESD Education Plan, or Local Service Plan.
Thank you.
As
Thank
presented.
you for that truncated presentation that we appreciate. Is there a motion?
I move to approve the 2026-27 local service plan as presented.
You have to read it the exact way
have
it's
to read it.
presented.
Well, the
Sorry.
slide lied to me.
Yeah,
I move we adopt the resolution to authorize the 2026-27 Northwest Regional ESD local service plan as presented.
thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Wonderful. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion carries 5-0. The next meeting of the board will be held on February 9th, and this 4.5-hour day is adjourned.